What's up, fellas? In today's video, I'm going to be going through my selections for both the Eastern and Western Conferences for who I think should be making the All-Star team, both starters as well as reserves. I think the starters come out tonight, and then they'll do the reserves a little bit later than that. So I thought it'd be fun today to go through my picks, and then tomorrow I'll be doing a video kind of reacting to and talking about guys that I felt like should have made it, just kind of talking about the teams that actually end up being selected. But really quickly, before we get started with the video, if you're new here, what's up? My name is Tucker. I upload NBA content on this channel twice a day, every single day, so it's the most consistent NBA content on YouTube, so consider subscribing. You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well if you're enjoying them, and I've got a link in the description as well that has all of my social medias in it and a link tree if you guys want to check that out and hang out with me outside of these videos. But with those things said, let's go ahead and go through. We'll begin in the Eastern Conference, where I think there are three and a half guys that are absolute locks to be starters in the East. Those being Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Kevin Durant. Those three guys have been having incredible seasons, and I don't really think that there's anybody at their respective positions that you can have over those three guys. The half part of that equation is Bradley Beal having an incredible scoring season, and like that Wizards team isn't very good. But I don't think that if you, like any of the players we're going to name here in the East All-Stars, if you put any of them on the Wizards, they might be marginally better, but like that's just a bad team overall. And I think the statistical production is really difficult to argue against when it comes to Bradley Beal. So I think he's like a near lock to be a starter. If you want to have a conversation about some of the other guards we're going to get to later being in over Beal, that's fine. But I feel like he's pretty much a near lock to be a starter in my opinion. And then the fifth spot in the East is where things get pretty interesting. I think you can have a conversation about James Harden. I think you can have a conversation about Jaylen Brown. I think you can have a conversation about someone like Chris Middleton if you wanted to go that route. Ultimately, I'm going to go Jaylen Brown as my fifth starter in the East. The conversation for me really did come down to him or James Harden. Harden has been fantastic in his time in Brooklyn, but the way the season started in Houston, I feel like you do have to account for that a little bit, even though he is currently leading the league in assists and is kind of the lead ball handler guy in the best offense in the league. But Brown, despite playing less minutes, still has really, really good statistical production and provides more of an impact in terms of a two-way player. And ultimately, that in combination with how the season started for Harden in Houston is the reason why Jaylen Brown is going to be the fifth starter in the Eastern Conference for me in the All-Star team. So we've got Embiid, Giannis, Durant, Beal, and Brown. And now we get to the reserves. This is in no particular order. Like I didn't order these in terms of these guys were almost starters. We're just going to kind of go through the whole list of 7 reserves here in the Eastern Conference. Keep in mind, by the way, that the only thing that we're voting on in terms of like the All-Star fan votes and stuff, those are the starters, and then the coaches pick all the reserves. That's why the starters come out tonight, and then they let the coaches pick the reserves, which I think takes a couple of days, maybe even a week before those get revealed. With those things in mind, I have Jason Tatum as the first All-Star off the bench here in the Eastern Conference. I don't think there's a case against him. He's been fantastic. Yes, he's missed some time, but that's going to be the case with a lot of these guys that are making the All-Star team because of the circumstances of this season. Guys are going to miss some games, and Tatum has been fantastic in the games that he has played. Next up now, I'm going to go with James Harden. I think you could make the case. I don't think it's an incorrect decision at all to put him in there as a starter over Jaylen Brown for some of the reasons I gave earlier. The statistical production is fantastic. He's leading the league in assists. It's not all that close, and he's the primary ball handler guy in the best offense in the entire league. But I think there are certainly some things that you can kind of take some points away from him for, and as a result, he is coming off the bench, but he's absolutely an all-star. After that, I think it gets really interesting with some different conversations you can have between guys like Trae Young and Zach LaVine and whatever the case may be. I think Bam Adebayo is absolutely an all-star. I know that there are guys scoring more than him, but he has improved so much. And every time I went through this, I didn't come up with a scenario in which Bam Adebayo did not make the All-Star team because of his versatility, because of his two-way impact, because of his improvement, and the fact that, yes, that Miami team doesn't have a great record right now, but Bam has been fantastic every step of the way for them, so he is a All-Star reserve for me. I'll go through a couple more here, and then I'll get to one that I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had about. I think Kyrie Irving is an all-star. If you want to, take away points from him for missing time and for taking a few weeks away from the team, that's fine. But I think statistically, he's been fantastic, shooting percentage-wise, points-wise, everything. He's been fantastic. He's an all-star. I think Zach LaVine is also an all-star, someone that I've been hesitant to put on the team in the past. His scoring efficiency is ridiculous. I think that if you really want to have a conversation between him and Trae Young, I think LaVine has simply had a better season, and that's why he is on the All-Star team. Chris Middleton, I think, also deserves to be here as well. It's similar to the Jaylen Brown case, except off the bench here. The two-way impact is there. Chris Middleton is a really, really good player, really critical to what Milwaukee does. I think you could have a conversation about maybe Jrue Holiday being here as well and having the Bucks have 3 All-Stars, but ultimately I'm going to keep them at 2 with Middleton here. And then I have Ben Simmons as the last guy in the reserves. And statistically, yeah, there are some issues. He's averaging 14, 8, and 8. And I've made a video this season talking about how frustrating it is at times to watch him offensively, but I think he's kind of settled into this role that's really, really interesting. And it's going to be more difficult to get, all-star buzz around him than it would be, in a kind of role that he was playing in the past. But he's doing a lot of awesome things for that group. Good playmaker. And defensively, he's probably going to make an All-NBA team this year, and has done a really good job there as well. And again, if we want to reward two-way impact outside of just rewarding all the scores, I think Ben Simmons needs to be on the All-Star team. The guys notably that we're leaving off here, of course, are Sabonis, Trae Young, and a couple other guys as well. But that's going to be my East All-Star team. As now we move to the Western Conference. And again, I think there are a couple of guys here that are absolute locks. And really, I think there's a conversation around 6 or 7 guys that could be starters. But I think this starting 5 is kind of the best mix of all those guys. And these are the 5 guys that are having the best seasons at their respective positions. So I'm going to go through these relatively quickly. In the West, my starters are Steph, Luka, Kawhi, LeBron, and Nikola Jokic. Jokic has to be there, I think. LeBron has to be there. Those 2 guys are solidly in the MVP conversation. Kawhi has been fantastic. Luka has been a bit down, but I don't think you can take him out of the starter category. And then Steph has been on an incredible run, especially lately. Between Luka and Steph, the other conversation to be had here, of course, was Damian Lillard. And then Paul George has been really good this year as well. So those guys you certainly could have a conversation about. But for me, I'm going to go with those 5 players. Off the bench, I think we have to begin with Paul George. He's been having a really, really good season with LA. Anthony Davis, of course, has to be an all-star. Rudy Gobert, given the fact that the Jazz have been so good from a record standpoint, absolutely has to be an all-star this year. He's been fantastic defensively, and I've been critical of the contract they gave Gobert in the long term. Maybe that does end up being a mistake, but right now in this moment, Rudy Gobert is one of the best bigs in the league and deserves to be an all-star as a result. Dame, I already mentioned, absolutely needs to be on the team, and then after that, things get a little bit weird. Do you want to have a Devin Booker conversation? Do you want to talk about Mike Conley? Do you want to talk about Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, Zion, Brandon Ingram? And ultimately, I went with one guy from each of those teams. I went with Donovan Mitchell over Mike Conley because I think he is more impactful. Mike Conley's having a good season, but ultimately when it comes down to it, if you're looking for the top perimeter guy there in Utah, Donovan Mitchell is that guy, and as a result, he is the all-star. I went with Chris Paul over Devin Booker. I wanted to put both of them on this team, but ultimately there just weren't enough spots at the end here. And I just think that the impact that Paul has is just more than what Devin Booker is. And, obviously their team is better this year than it's been in years past, but we've seen Devin Booker with the Suns for a couple years now, and it never necessarily translated into wins until the bubble. And I think it's clear the impact that Chris Paul has had on this roster, and I think that is more on an all-star level than maybe some of the statistics that Devin Booker's putting up. Not taking anything away from Devin Booker, but if I have to pick one guy from the Suns, I'm putting Chris Paul on the all-star team. And then I feel like you have to pick a guy from the Pelicans just because the statistical production there, especially offensively, between Zion and Brandon Ingram is, kind of unassailable. You kind of have to put one of those guys on the team. I think it's more fun for Zion to be an all-star, so I'm going to go there, but it's not really a pick that, makes a ton of sense compared to some other guys. Like if you want to poke holes in the case for Zion as an all-star compared to Ingram or compared to other guys, that's fine. I just think it's fun. I think it's okay to have one guy on each roster that you just want to have there because you want to have them there. And I think for me, those are Zion and Ben Simmons. But ultimately, if you want to make an argument or a case against those guys, that's fine. This is a really, really talented group, by the way, in each conference. There are a lot of guys deserving of recognition. There's a lot of guys scoring a lot of points. And ultimately, yeah, some guys are going to get left off the teams. Like Devin Booker might not make the team. Donovan Mitchell might not make the team. Chris Paul, Mike Conley, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Brandon Ingram, Zion, any of those guys might not make the team in the West, and people are going to be upset about it. And then in the East, Trae Young was an all-star starter last year, and if he gets completely left off the team, people are going to be upset about that as well. At the end of the day, does the all-star voting really matter all that much? No, it's not really affecting any of these guys too much, especially because I'm still not convinced we're having this all-star game. I know it's planned, I know it's scheduled, but the players don't want to have it, and they might just drop out, or, we could have 10 injury replacements in the All-Star game because suddenly guys, have a sore calf and they can't show up to the All-Star game. So that's a conversation for a different day. But ultimately, these are my 2 All-Star teams in the East. We have Embiid, Giannis, Durant, Beal, Brown, Tatum, Harden, Adebayo, Irving, Simmons, Middleton, and Levine. And then in the West, I have Steph, Luka, Kawhi, LeBron, Jokic, Paul George, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert, Mitchell, Dame, Chris Paul, and Zion. Let me know down in the comment section below who you guys think I left off, who you think I put on the team, who I shouldn't have, or who your just overall all-star teams are. I'm interested to know what you guys think these two teams should be. But with all those things said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like rating on the video. Check out more videos from me with the boxes on screen as well as on the channel as a whole. Sub to the channel, and yeah, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.